today we have this very nice rifle set. It's a 3-barrel set on CPA action that we're going to finish, sand this stock, and refinish. Let's get to it. All right, now that we have this finished sanded, I'm going to blow the dust off it. Just give it a final inspection. Looks like right here I have a couple spots that need to be sanded in the direction of the grain still. So we'll do that. Then we'll get it ready for the first coat of finish. Okay, the next thing we're going to do before we put finish on these is we're going to take a tack cloth, we're going to run it over it and get off any of the dust that's on it. This becomes more important later on when you have finishes that you're worried about dust inclusion more. This initial coat is to soak the finish into the gun to get better adhesion and to be able to start building up the pores of the finish on the pores. So I'm going to start with a 25% reduction on my finish so it soaks into the stock. That way we know we'll get good penetration and good adhesion for the following coats. All right, it's the next day. We've got our first coat on here. This is the coat that's soaked into the grain. And so now we're going to give this a sanding, a light sanding, and we're going to put a full strength coat on it. We've got the first diluted coat on there and sanded, scuffed back up, and now it's ready for our first full coat. First coat is tack free. As you can see, all these pores are still showing. Beautiful piece of wood. Little drip there. So now basically we're gonna come pretty close to sanding all this finish off, trying not to break any grains of the wood or get into the wood again. And that way our next coat will build on top of that. There we go. Okay, so we got it all scuffed up after our first coat, and we're ready to put our second coat of finish on it. So we're gonna clean this off, tack it, and put our next coat on. As you can see, our goal is to fill in all of these pores so it's all nice and smooth when we sand it. Okay, so as you can see, with every coat, the finish is starting to fill up more and more of these pores in the wood. And we're gonna sand this off and give it another coat and repeat the process. I'm going to stop here for a second to show you a couple things. I'm using a glossy finish, which doesn't matter at all because our end product finish, we're going to sand it down and then we're going to buff it to whatever finish we want at the end. But for now, I like the glossy because it shows all the pores that aren't filled yet. And so where it's dull and white, that's how we want this whole thing to look when we're done. When you're sanding and you see brown, that means you sanded too far. You've gone through to the wood. You want to try to ignore that. You want to try to not do that so that you are only sanding the finish. You can see here, we're getting close because there's only a few pores showing. Down here, we haven't really sanded much yet. You can see how it was before. So we're going to keep doing this until we get it all looking just like in here with no glossy pores shining up through. And then we know we have a coat of finish over the wood. And the finish is what we can polish. The wood, you can't polish. So we're going to keep going. lower end on this cycle. As you can see, we're getting close. This one here, I sanded through to the wood in quite a few places, which is okay because we're still putting more finish on. It's just important that you are staying square on the flats, and like this comes up to a point, so we want to make sure we're not running over that point with any sanding, that we're sanding on this side and then on this side. But we're getting there. Okay, so on this last one we swapped over to a satin finish, and you can see we're getting much closer, but we still have some of these exposed pores. Starting to look pretty nice, so we're gonna go ahead and repeat the process. Go back to sanding. So as soon as you start sanding, you can see the dark spots are everywhere that still isn't filled up. And we'll keep sanding until those dark spots are gone. And all we see is this kind of chalky white finish. And then we know where we need to be. The trick is not to sand through the chalky white finish into the wood, and then you'll start seeing brown on your paper. So this is sanded down as far as I'm going to take it for this coat. You can see most of it is white. There's still some small spots here on the grain that are not up to the same level. And I do think one more coat of finish will complete that. This is not down to the wood. This is all still one coat of finish underneath this, so the next coat should take up that should fill in those pores, and we'll go ahead and we'll sand the rest of this to match, and the forearms. So I get a lot of questions about how long it takes me to do a particular thing, and I don't always watch the clock, but to sand out this half of this stock took me just about an hour, and that's only one of the sanding processes the many that we'll go through when refinishing this stock set. This is one of the more difficult sides because of the curves and whatnot, but we've got almost all of our pores filled, and I'm fairly confident the next coat of finish will completely fill all the pores. This is sanded out with 600 grit right now. After the next coat of finish, we'll be able to rub the stock out. At least that's my plan. But I'm going to keep going. Well, I forgot to hit record as I finished off the rest of these stocks. That happens more often than you'd think when you're doing all the video recording on your own. We have these all sanded down. I went back. I initially did this with 600. I went back to 400 to scuff it up before we put the next coat of finish on it. And honestly, the finish fills in the 400 grit sand scratches anyway. So it gives it a little more bite. Pretty much where we want to be. And the last part of this, the last coat of finish, I spray it on. And that is because when you use a brush, you get globs, you get runs, and all that causes problems when you go to rub this out. So I spray on my last coat. There's a reason why they spray paint cars instead of brush cars, and that's how I finish up with my Spar Urethane. And I'm sure I'll get some comments on that, but that's okay. That's how I do my final coat.